YouTube! I am Pinstar, and this is Slipways Strategy and Tactics Quick Tips Getting Started Guide. So, Slipways, the demo for it at least, is out. It is available for free from the game's Steam webpage. I have a link to it down in the description if you haven't picked it up already. But once you do pick it up, you may want to get a couple of tips to help you get started right. Tip number 1. Check out the Learn to Play. It helps give you the basics. My tips will be going a little bit beyond the basics that they show you here, but this is a good tutorial. Tip number 2. Try your first run at the reasonable difficulty level. But, if you're finding that too hard, by all means, go down to forgiving. Leave challenging and tough for later playthroughs. You'll want to start out reasonably enough. For your very first playthrough, until you get to know the races a little bit better, I'm going to recommend the Aphorians, the Dender, and the Bakar as your starting 3 races. The Aphorians and the Dender have a sort of a natural synergy between the two of them. The Dender liking big, prosperous colonies, and the Aphorians liking trading in goods, so their quests will generally play off of each other. The Bakar are all about giving you flexibility, as well as they have the easiest missions in the game, so keeping them happy is not too difficult. As far as the perks, your perks are going to be different each playthrough, so don't get married or attached to one. Try them out. I'm not going to give you a tip as to which is the best or the worst, but see which ones work for you. Before colonizing any planet or setting up any routes, you want to scan your initial area. Now, since each probe costs you time and money, you want to get as many of these little sensor blips in its radius as possible. And yes, it does pulse, so you may be able to, with careful placement and waiting for the pulse to reach the edge, be able to capture more than one planet in the thing. But you also want to make sure you don't leave any blips stranded, so that way you can scan your whole sector efficiently. Note here, where the pulse reaches its apex, we get 3 more than if we wait for it to condense. So wait for it to be at its widest and then let go of the mouse button, and you will get all of those scanned in one go. Once all of your planets, or at least once you've scanned your sector so that the only remaining blips are singletons, now it is time to assess your layout before picking where you want to start building. You generally want to start with a planet that will host your first colony, and make sure that it has connections to planets that can supply it and stabilize it quickly. Not every single planet type can host a colony. The colonizable planets are swamps, oceans, earth-likes, arids, arctics, and jungles. We don't seem to have any jungles near us, but that's okay. Now, also bear in mind that not all colony-bearing planets are created equal. If you'll see here, if we made a colony on this arid world, we would need a water and a food. Whereas if we made it on this swamp world, we would need microchips and a food. While all colonies require food, the helper resource that you need to supply them is going to be different depending on the planet type. Also, as a special note, Earth-likes only require food. They do not need an initial helper resource. They will need goods as they grow larger, but that's true for all of them. Now, if you want to see which planets can provide these things, mouse over them. Click on them. See what exchanges. The best thing to do is when you see people for a resource. That way you know that the population from your planet can be used to extract this resource and make a two-way exchange. For example, this Arctic colony needs bacteria here. This primordial world can take people and produce bacteria. So these two worlds would work really well in tandem with each other, but make sure you can source the rest of your needs. As we can see here, there's nothing around here that can supply food. Granted, the algae farm could supply food, but there's no way to get bots to it. So try to find a complete loop. If you are not sure if a world is able to reach another planet, mouse over it and hold the Alt key. The worlds that it can trade with will be shown in the dotted lines. That way you can make sure that a world that looks that might be too far away to trade with it can or cannot. In this case, they can. Looking at that ocean planet down there. Perfect example of a stable loop. All of our worlds are marked as established, meaning they do not have a red flag over them. Note that you only need to supply their basic resources in order for them to become established. Lacking a secondary resource will not cause them to suffer. In this case, the extra need of goods here or the extra need of water, we're not going to be suffering any dire penalties because of that. While it is nice to supply them and that will help them level up, it's not going to penalize you. Whereas a struggling world will slowly sap your happiness score. If you fall below 70% happiness, you will lose the game. Also, don't forget, once you reach the second year, to accept your missions. Take the missions that are the easiest to complete, rather than looking at the reward numbers here, because the faster you complete both of these missions, the sooner you can get more missions. In this case, discover 7 new planets and make a food-producing world. Successful are probably the easiest ones here, but what is easier is going to depend on your current layout. Now, once you have that arrangement, grab your laboratory and place it in a location where all of the different worlds can access it. In this case, this little world's kind of in the way, but if we place it like, let's say right here, there should be room for everybody to link up. The ideal minimum for a lab is 3 science per year. That is obtained by having the 2 copies of a resource plus 1 researcher. Now, any additional copies of that same resource or any additional researchers from other populated worlds are just extra gravy for that matter. Nothing to turn your nose up to, for certain. Of technology, the screen when you are choosing your races will show you all of your available Tier 1 techs, but it is worth it to take a peek into your techs and scroll down, as this will tell you what Tier 2 and Tier 3 techs you've rolled. These are also different every single game. Not to mention certain earlier tier techs can open up new, improved versions of that tech in later tiers. See where it says wave augmentation leads to slip space nanochannels. This tier, if you take this tier 1 tech, it will open up a new improved version of it in tier 2. Mind you, you can only take 2 technologies from tier 1 before the rest are lost to you, and you have to move on to tier 2. You can only take 3 techs from tier 2 before you're forced into tier 3. So choose wisely. Setting up redundant routes within your empire is actually quite healthy. Take a look at over here. So we've got a Cerberus 3 with a couple extra workers over here, and we've got this mining world that it's producing enough minerals and using enough minerals. There isn't really anywhere else that we can send it. So having more people at the mine, working at the mine, isn't strictly speaking required. However, it can help your empire. Observe. By adding additional imports here, it may, depending on the conditions, level up one or the other world. In this case, we leveled up Cerberus here from just established to successful. It also used up one of the workers that would otherwise be unemployed and creating unhappiness. So look for chances and opportunities to have redundant trades set up within your empire when possible as you grow. It can be quite healthy. Handy features of the game is the undo button. If you've set something up and realized after the fact that, oops, I didn't want that, you can use the undo button to reverse time and make it so it never happened. You are refunded the cost and the time it took to colonize the planets or set up the slipways or whatever transpired. However, And this is important because you cannot undo anything once it's been locked into place. You cannot uncolonize a colony, or you can't change, you can't decide, oh, I don't want this to be a colony anymore. I want this to be one of the other functions of an Arctic world. Nope, you're locked into place. You cannot sever a slipway once it has been made unless you undo it. Now, one other caveat to keep in mind, though, is after you've performed some actions, you can go back as far as you want. You can, in fact, go back several different actions. You can go boom, boom, and it will remember the actions you took in that order. However, the moment you launch a probe to scan, that cuts off your undo button. You cannot undo past when you last launched a probe. So, before you go scanning additional worlds, make sure you're happy with your layout. All right, folks, so I think that is all the tips that I have for you today to help you get started with Slipways. I am having so much fun with this game, and I think you will too, and these will help you get started soon enough. So if you guys liked this episode and you want to see more like it, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and leave me a comment, good, bad, or indifferent. If you want to see some more full playthroughs of the game, see what a game looks like from start to finish, both for tips and tricks, and also to see if you want to dive into this game, take a look at some of the other Slipway videos that I've done on the channel before, both on normal difficulty as well as challenging. So until next time, this has been Pinstar, signing out. See ya!